This is our ACURe professional development series, and this one is ADS, Successful Reporting. I'm Stephanie Stenner, the Urology Program Coordinator at the University of Florida. And the reason I volunteered for this is that I have been on our IPRC committee, our institutional IPRC committee, for the past 3 years. And I have reviewed a lot of ADS reports, and I have been privy to a lot of meetings where people are getting, kind of told the things they've done wrong or whatever. So I do feel like I have a really good insight. If you guys have the opportunity to join like your institutional program review committee, it is actually such a wealth of information that you can get to help your program. You get to see really what the GME is looking for, and what the GME is looking for is what the ACGME is looking for. So if you can join yours, I highly recommend it. Mine is pretty time consuming sometimes, but I say it's very worth it. That's why I've been on it. It's really only a 2-year thing, but I volunteered to stay on an extra year, and then I've just signed on for at least another year, maybe 2. I'm not really sure. They weren't very clear about it. So when you open up ADS, and let me just say before I start, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to unmic yourself and ask. There aren't that many of us here. We don't have to wait till the very end. If you have a question, it's fine to go ahead and ask. So when you open up ADS on the ACGME's website, you're going to see your overview, just like this. And you're going to see either X's or check marks. And this is a good place to start, but it isn't where you need to really focus, because once you go into one of these and save that item, it's going to show a check mark as if you're done.
Stephanie, we can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't? Okay, that's what I wondered. It said, let me see, because I said share my screen. That is so weird. You still can't see it? Hang on.
I can see it. Okay.
You can probably drag it to the other screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to, hang on. Let me stop the share. Let me try this. I'm sorry. I just love this kind of problem. Can you see it now? I think you can, because the green box isn't around it. And it should be.
I can see your screen.
But can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
You can see where it says number 1, review
Yes.
each of. Okay, all right, good. Well, there's usually a green box around it, and you can tell which screen you're sharing. Okay, so again.
I'm still looking at you, Stephanie.
Who is?
I am, Paula.
But everyone else can see my screen? So I just changed the thing. Can you see that?
Best practice. It's on the top of the screen. Yeah.
How can Paula not see it? That is so weird.
Does she have her participants window open?
Yes.
Try and close it.
Yeah, that's very confusing. So everyone else can see it who's here.
I got it.
You got it. All right, good deal. All right. Now we're cooking with gas, as they say. Okay, so again, when you open up your ADS and you see these little check boxes and you click on them to view, this is a good starting point. But again, once you enter any information and save it, the box is going to change to a green square. So a green check mark. So you don't want to use this exclusively to say, oh, okay, now I'm done. Want to use what I recommend is that you go to the summary tab and you use these to access your your summary, your ADS update. And when you click on the edit program information, it will open up your entire program, not just one section, because all those little ones on the page before, they'll just open that section only. This will open the entire document, and you can then scroll through it and see what you need to change. And you can click on view edit, and you can make changes and save them. And when you do that and you go back to the program, it's going to take you back to that overview. So you have to go back to the summary and open it up again. But it's a lot more comprehensive way to look at your ADS. So that's the first thing I recommend that you do. Always, when you are in ADS, look for the save changes. They'll be up at the top right corner, or sometimes it'll be in like the bottom left, but it's a green button, and just always be sure you save, because if you don't save, then you're going to be doing it again. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my ADS, and I've marked it up so that you can see the particular areas that you want to focus on. Obviously, you want to check everything, but I want to be sure now everybody can see my document says accreditation information. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Karen. So the first thing you want to do, after you've made sure all the first part of it is correct, and that pretty much stays the same every year, be sure that you have your mission statement on this and that you include a link to your website with your mission statement. This is something that our GME requires. What you want to remember about your ADS is that this is the only thing the RRC has to judge your program on. They don't have any other information. So what you want to show them here is everything you can in great detail, so that they know you're doing what you're supposed to do, and then they don't think they need to give you a citation or a special visit or anything like that. My goal is to see the RRC and the site visitors as little as possible, or have to respond to citations. So we have a link here that is to our website where it is. And it says the exact same thing as it says here as far as our mission goes. And there's other information as well. Then when you get to the diversity, be sure that this is detailed information. You don't want it to be a general statement about we believe in diversity and we're trying to hire blah, blah, blah. They want to know specifics about what you are doing to actively achieve diversity. So give specifics there. You're free to, any of my stuff, don't plagiarize it entirely, change it up just so they won't think we all use the same thing. But feel free to review it and take parts from it that fit, your situation. And the same thing when you describe how your program will achieve diversity, give some specifics about what you're doing to get diversity, because again, this is a hot spot with the ACGME right now. Be sure if you have any citations that you have responded to those. If you get citations, you should respond to them immediately. But I will say our GME office likes to preview anything before you submit it, because we have seen programs who sort of try to deflect the responsibility for that. And that is just not the way to deal with the RRC. It's kind of like if you're a parent and you correct your child, you don't want your child to say, well, you didn't do what you needed to do. Well, they could be right, but you don't want to hear that. What you want to hear is, I'm really sorry this happened and I will never do it again. And that's pretty much what the RRC wants to hear. So if you have citations, just be careful how you word them, and and maybe check with your GME office before you submit those responses. Then in the major changes section, as you see, you will see mine is very long because what I do every year is just add to the previous year because you have a lot of characters available here. I don't know if it doesn't say here, but you have like, I don't know. It's a lot of characters. So I just add to it every year. It's sort of like a little running history of our program. And anything that we have done that we feel is improving our program, we highlight that here. We put that here. We said, for example, we want them to know we didn't just decide to do virtual interviews because the AAMC said we should. We had already decided to do it. We want them to know that we're thinking about those things. We recruited our first Black woman into residency here. That is big for us and it's important as far as diversity goes. We want them to know that. So we are pointing all those things out. Anything you do, if you change your conference schedule, anything you do that is to improve your program, you should put that here. And then, like I say, I keep a running kind of, you can go back. Here's what happened in 2021. Here's what happened in 1920. You know, so you can see that it goes back a way. And it's a nice little running history for me or the next person who comes along. If I get hit by a bus, they have at least some sort of a history that they can look at about what's happened. With your participating sites, of course, you want to be sure that they're all listed. And be sure that your site number matches your block diagram. Because when I started, actually, there was somebody who had done it before. They numbered them one way on the block diagram and another way in the ADS update. So you want to just, it's a little thing, but it's something that literally you do not want a citation for clerical error. But they will give them for clerical error. And then it will actually maybe make them look further into, well, what else are you not doing right? So again, staying under the radar is my goal. Be sure your PLA dates are correct. And you want to be sure all your dates in your document are correct. So just kind of look at them every year. Be sure that your length of rotation matches your block diagram, how much time they spend at each place. I think this might auto-generate. I have to say I didn't have a chance to verify that, but just be sure that it does. The rationale, we haven't ever gotten any feedback from our GME about it, so whatever sounds good is usually fine for that. In this section with the amenities, they are asking those questions because they want you to say yes to them. Obviously, don't lie, but there should be refrigeration resources, a place for the storage of human milk. There should be a private place for lactation. There should be all of these things in most situations. Now, for example, we have one site that the residents go to for just a few hours during their internship. They're never there for longer than a few hours. So I don't even know if they have them, but I haven't asked. Safe, quiet, clean, private sleep rest facilities, because they don't need them. They're not there that long. Or whether they have a shower, they don't need it. So it doesn't matter. Those things, if there's a good rationale for why they wouldn't need it, fine. But pretty much everything else they should have. And you want to verify that they have those things and that all those boxes are checked for every site that they go to. This is the one. This is our Lake City VA. And like I say, they only go there for a few hours, a couple of times while they're interns. And that's the only thing. And then there's another section here that says if the total number of rotation months per year does not equate 12 months for all sites combined, provide an explanation. Well, ours do, but we still have added some notes here. It's a place that you can put notes that you might want to use to clarify something that's happening on your block diagram. And so that's kind of what we have going on there. When you get to your program director, this is like the program director CV. First of all, you want to be sure that at least they show the number, the minimum number, the 0.2 FTE that they spend on administration of the program. And, you know, these numbers, you almost just have to, what do they call it? Spitball, you know, because really, I'm sure Dr. Moy spends way more than 8 hours on administration and way more than 32 hours on clinical supervision. But we usually try to keep it around like 50-ish hours, something like that. Because if we were honest about it, it would just look like they never went home. For the certifications, you want to be sure their expiration years are correct. But I believe even in this section, those are now being auto-generated. So you shouldn't have to enter those anymore. But you still want to be sure they are correct and that they have auto-populated. Because, you know, something could happen and they don't. Or maybe you have someone new and they haven't, maybe they're not in the system good yet. I don't know, because we have somebody that didn't show up. And I'll show you in the thing, there's a place to put in a reason for them not having their certification. I also want to point out, every faculty member does not have to be a core faculty member. And you want to limit your core faculty member. There's not a minimum number of core faculty you have to have. The main thing you want to think about with core faculty is that they have to do your annual survey. And so if you have someone, let's just say you have a person who's not ever happy with anything, maybe you don't want them to do your annual survey. Well, if they're not core faculty, they won't have to. And the reality is that it's just you and the RRC that knows who's core faculty. It doesn't have anything to do with their standing in the program or how much money they make or anything else. They can have plenty of interaction with your residents. They don't have to be core faculty. So keep that in mind when you are setting them up. Also, want to, well, at least our IPRC has told us that the ACGME wants to see what your faculty do for the program with their titles. So in other words, Dr. Moy isn't just an associate professor, he's the residency program director. Dr. Bird is a member of the PEC, he's a resident mentor, he's a professor, and he's the chief of division of MIS. So I put everything that they are there with the things they do for the program first. So as you go down, you'll see Dr. Canales is a member of the CCC. He's a site director. He's a mentor, and he's a director of urologic research. Then he's an associate professor. So that, you know, again, detail is important. And what those people do for your program, that's what's important to the RRC. They don't really care if everybody's an associate professor. They want to know what they're doing for the program. I cut out a bunch of my stuff in the middle because, you know, it's all just more of the same. This is for the qualification explanations. If you have someone who just joined, maybe they just came into your program as faculty from a fellowship, they're not going to be certified yet. And they have to, you know, have a certain amount of time that they work before they can take the exam. So what you just want to do is be sure that you put in the information about, you know, that they're not certified and then why they're not certified. This doctor is going to take the exam this year in November. I just contacted him and asked him, what are your plans for certification? I need to know for our annual report, and they very kindly send back, I'm taking the test in November. This one's taking his in February of 2023. And then next year, I would want to go back and say, okay, Dr. Brisbane, did you take your exam in November? If so, when does your certification expire if it didn't auto-populate? That way I can be sure that the information's in there. This is your program director's CV. You want to be positive that this is up to date. You know, all of this first stuff is going to stay the same, but every year there will be changes to some of it. So you want to be sure there is a concise summary of their role in the program. The wording that I have used here is exactly what our GME told us to say. So again, feel free to semi-plagiarize it, maybe switch it around just a little bit, but this is, I assume, RRC acceptable since our GME told us to do it that way. For the professional activities and committees, be sure the items are only within the last 3 years. So here, for example, even though this is 2009, it's to present. So anything that's still going on obviously can be there. But if you have one that ended in, in 2017, shouldn't be on there anymore. Yes, Catherine, go ahead.
Is it 5 years or 3 years?
5 years. It's right there on the form.
Got it. Thanks.
Everything for the program director is within the past 5 years, and then it's usually a limit of 10 of everything. So no more than 10 items and no older than 5 years. And so you just want to go through every time and just check your dates. Now this is December 17, so it was kind of a close one, but as of right now, it's not quite 5 years. So that one I left on there. But if it had been June of 17, I would have removed it. So that you want to just be sure those are, accurate. And again, it's the same thing for everything. This one is limited 10, 5 years, limited 10, 5 years. And that's pretty self-explanatory, but just they will give you a citation for that if you aren't. I mean, it's ridiculous, but they will do it. Now, all of this information in your ADS, you can update throughout the year. Anytime, if you have a slow time and you say, you know what, I want to go update my program director's CV or whatever, you can do that. The only thing you don't want to update until the new year populates is your scholarly activity. Because if you do, then it will go on to the year before, and you will not be able to report any scholarly activity for that year. If they had a PMID, once you enter that PMID, you will never be able to use it again. So always save the scholarly activity to enter after the reporting year opens. So for this reporting year, the scholarly activity that you're going to report is for last year. So it's a little bit confusing the way it works, but that is how it works. So you want everything that happened in the past year is going to be on this report. You want to be sure that you get domains because they want domains for people. It doesn't have to be everyone. I can't remember how many people I left here. Oh, I didn't. I took a bunch of them out, but we have a few faculty who don't do anything. They don't do anything scholarly. We have a couple of VA faculty. They're VA, and the VA doesn't make them do anything, and so we don't make them do anything. And as long as it's not a majority of your faculty, it's not going to be a problem. Go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, I'm wondering where you get the information to check off their domains, because I asked my program director, he's like, you can just pick whatever you want. You just check the boxes that seem right to you. Is that how you do it, or do they?
No, I actually send them I send the administrative assistants to each faculty member a document that I created asking, and with detail like description of what each thing is, and then I ask them for it. Now the ACGME has a form that you can use And I believe it has the information on it too about what it is. And you could send them that if you didn't want to create something. But I make them responsible for telling me what domains. I don't think that I have enough information to choose that. I mean, I could probably pick it for, in fact, I probably do pick it for Dr. Moy, right? Because I work with him all the time, but he's the only one I could do it for. Everyone else has to tell me, do you think you are, you know, and even sometimes I won't be sure. So I might say, well, Dr. Moy, do you think, you know, we should check reviews for you? Or, but then when I look at his CV, he's on review committee. So obviously then, you know, he can qualify for being on, like, doing reviews.
Do you know if that's something that the ADS cross-checks? Like if they see, oh, they selected researching basic sciences, they actually cross-check with the CV? Like how in-depth is this information audited? Just so I can kind of gauge.
Well, I mean, to be honest, only for the program director are they going to have the CV.
Okay.
They're not going to have a CV for anyone else.
Got it.
So, I mean, obviously you don't want to majorly, like, if you say here that they have 0 grant leadership, but then you put peer-reviewed grants, well, they could still, maybe they are on some committee that decides about peer-reviewed grants. So maybe that would be an okay one to check. But I don't know if there's anything here really that would contradict. You don't want to contradict yourself, right? You want everything to be honest and consistent. And the thing is, it's just like everything. If you never lie, you never have to worry about what you said. If you just tell the truth, this is what happened, then that's fine. And so you don't want to be like, oh, we got to check something, because your people are doing something, probably. I mean, generally they are. If they're not, then the RRC is going to say there's a problem, and maybe there is. So, and what I have been told repeatedly by the GME is that being put on probation isn't always the end of the world. It actually can be the catalyst to programs making improvements. So sometimes you have to have that threat of losing accreditation before your dean will say, okay, we're going to help you financially to make some changes, or we're going to do XYZ to make sure that we can correct these issues. So again, if research is a weakness and you don't ever have any research, you don't want to be pretending you do, because it's going to catch up with you. So if you have most of your faculty who say, I don't do any of those things, I don't contribute to professional committees or editorial boards, I don't ever do reviews or case reports or anything like that. If you have people mostly who don't do that, that may be something that you need to address as a program. So again, I believe you just, now, again, I leave it up to everyone else, to all the other faculty, to tell me what they do. So if they don't tell me right, that's on them, not me. I can't check up on everybody.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie.
Obviously, you know, you want to be sure you checked who the other learners are that work with your residents. But, you know, like, for example, I was just wondering today, I wonder if, like, our PAs count, because maybe they do, I don't know. But see, we've got APPs here, so I don't know who else these other health profession staff might be, but I figure we're pretty well covered. It's good enough. Unless we have some issue on our survey, then, you know, then we might need to revisit this. Same thing about pain management. You don't have to have 14 different ways that they're taught. You just have to have some ways that they're taught about pain management. This is just something I didn't take out for some reason. Resident scholarly activity is basically the same as faculty. It's for the previous year. You don't want to enter it early. And once you enter a PMID, you can't ever use that again for that resident. So just always remember that. Don't put in, like, I've had some people too with, when they send me their report, they'll actually include something that is like submitted for publication. Well, that's not published, so I don't count it. I count it the next year. I try to put it in a folder so that I can refer to it the next year, but I don't know if I always remember. But you know, you want to be really, you know, I try to be really on, you know, on the up and up about everything with the activity that they do. These are auto-generated. If you have anybody who transfers, withdraws, or is dismissed, you're going to want to be sure to include them. I don't even know how you do that because we haven't ever had it since I've been here. For your program resources, you want to be sure that the FTEs are answered correct, honestly. But it is important that your program director have a 0.2 FTE. It is important. Now your APD, they have no requirement for the APD, so you can put 0 for that. And mine, for example, I specifically one time emailed my department administrator and I said, what FTE is allocated to me as program coordinator? And she said 100%. So I put 100%, even though then I must work 120% because I've definitely got other things that I do other than program coordinator. But I'm not going to argue with her about it. So, but again, you want to be honest with that. If you're doing urology and you're doing a couple of other fellowships, you need to be aware of what those fellowships require. And if you're spending, you know, 80% of your time, which is the minimum required, no, 50 is minimum for urology, sorry. Everybody else is almost in the world is almost 80%. Urology is 50%. So let's say you're spending 50% of your time on urology, but then you have 2 other programs that also require 50% time. Obviously, you have too much to do, according to the ACGME. And if once you put those other programs, you do your ADS for those programs, they're going to see that 50, 50, 50 does not equal 100. So those are things you have to address. Your program needs to address if you've got more on your plate than you should. And then for your CCC committee and your PEC committee, you want to list everyone on those committees. Obviously, for the CCC, you really can't be a member. You can attend to take notes and whatever, but we're not qualified to evaluate the residents in a clinical way. But for the PEC, you should be listed as a member. The ACGME and the RRCs have said that program coordinators should be on that committee. So you should list yourself as a member of that committee and not just as, you know, the minutes taker. Then, and he goes to the section about work hours and he says, yes, he attests that rotations are scheduled to meet the work hour limits. I make sure he does it and I don't do it because, like everything on a computer, they can track who was logged in and who did it. And I don't want it to look like, you know, he didn't know that he was signing something. So that's the end of the ADS. The only other thing on your annual update is your block schedule or your block diagram, I'm sorry. And you do have to use the ACGME's template. There's a link here that will take you directly to the template. And there's a link at the bottom of this page to take you directly to some instructions to help you complete the block diagram. The most important things, as I said before, on the block diagram are that your site numbers match what your site information earlier in your document says. And this is not like a block schedule. It is just an overview over 12 months, what happens. And when you look at, say, my page 2, you'll see 3 weeks annual leave / vacation taken throughout the year, not in a single block. So you do want to address there somewhere in your block schedule how vacation is given. If you do give your residents 3 weeks vacation in one block, you probably would use a block for that. And you would say like 3 weeks vacation, 1 week, whatever, wherever they are. You would need maybe a legend, you know, to be sure they have all the information. And then these are our little information so that they can see what they're doing on each of those blocks. The other thing that's important is that these numbers add up. For the intern year, they are not allowed any research time. So this should be zeros across the board. And for their chief year, they are not allowed any research time. So that should be zeros across the board. And that's a fairly new change that they've made. So you'll see here on this first block, Shan's, for the intern, it's 95% non-operative, 5% operative. It adds up to 100%. When you go to the second year, then they've got 5% research, 85% non-operative, 10% operative. So just be sure it all adds up to 100. That's the most important thing, and that you do use 12 blocks on their template. This is just one other thing about your participating sites that I wanted to point out. You want to be sure that when you put in this information that everything equals 12. So year 1, you have 11, 0.9, and 0.1. So that equals 12. Here you have year 2, 8.4 equals 12. So everything should equal 12 months in this when you're working. This is on the block diagram page. I mean, it's on the site page. And this would be where you would click to open up your block diagram. This is before I had uploaded my new block diagram. And this is where your participating site information is edited. So that's really all. I know I went through it kind of fast, but I don't want to bore anybody. But we have lots of time for questions. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
Thanks. So this was related to something you mentioned at the very beginning about the mission statement and how it has to include a link to the mission statement on the website. Is that something specific to your institution? Because I just logged into my ADS and I didn't see that directly.
It doesn't say but it does. They do require that information is out there for like people to see, candidates and whatever. So you should have your mission statement on your website.
Okay.
And so the reason we put the link there is to make it easier for the person reviewing on the RRC to go to the website directly. They can check it and make sure, okay, it's there. And then that's one more box they can check and say, we've done what we were supposed to do.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions about anything? Or is there something that I didn't talk about that you're not sure about? Okay, well, I can give you back 15 minutes of your life and 15 more minutes to work on your ADS. And what I'll do is I'll probably just send the whole PowerPoint out to the group just so that anybody who forgot or couldn't be here. And I will also be uploading this to the YouTube channel. So if you have any other, want to watch it again, because it was so enthralling, you'll be able to. Righty.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here. And for those of you who are on the steering committee, I appreciate your time for that as well. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great afternoon.
You too,
Bye-bye.
Stephanie. Bye-bye.
Bye.